So I got a tool here I made for winding Tesla coil secondaries, and I've been working on trying to make it to where it'll wind itself and keep everything in line. So what I got here is an ink pen, but the spring is at the top, so it's got push and pressure on the ball. I emptied the pen. There's no ink in it, so there's no ink that comes out. Just that ball, it rolls, the wire rolls on that ball there. And to make that move over, I got this screw here. And when this comes on around, it hits a gear right there and makes that little turn on this all thread, which moves this over just enough for the thickness of the wire. So it's working pretty good. And over here I've got the motor, and this is you can't really see it, but it's a motor from a printer, and this other half is from another printer, and I sandwiched them together. They weren't made together. I put these two pieces together in order to work with this gear on this all thread, which I think is 5/8, and it's a little bit warped. It's just something I'm trying to prototype anyway and get right, and so far it even works just fine the way it is, especially with the ink pen. It'll go up and down with the movement of the pipe. There's just a slight wobble, and that wobble is actually in this all thread here. It might be just slightly bent, I don't know. But I got a fan on the motor to keep it cooled down, and the motor's a little chatty, but it's because I'm using Arduino and some code and some optocouplers into a motor driver that I made, so I can do forward and reverse on here, and I control everything on this keyboard here just for now, until I figure out how I want to do it all the way, and unless this just proves to work, then I'll probably never change it. But so far it's working out pretty good. I've gotten the end here. In a minute I'll show you what we got going on. So you might have noticed the piece here. If I want to wind up the speed a little higher, I can actually pull back on this to pull these pieces in together tighter. And the reason I have to do that is because when this gets some resistance on it from the spool that's in the back down there, it might want to slip gears. So I have to pull this in tighter, and I normally wouldn't want to go any faster than what I do on my casual speed. I don't really know what to say how fast it is. I guess you'll see when I start it up. I'd like to incorporate some buttons somewhere to control what I'm using the keyboard for when I'm just running on serial. And just got some just basic stuff here. I'm shooting at it to change the speed, basically, which just sets the duty cycle to the optocouplers, which drive the double bridge. There we go. And there's pretty much two speeds I use that I've found now that I've went a good distance, and it for the most part it stays right where it needs to. My little guide here needs a little bit of work, but I can only right now I can go so far with this motor, so eventually I might have to upgrade the motor too and do something different there. But anyway, so there is also another piece inside here in these gears that, well, it won't come off in there unless I take it apart and a snap ring or something come out of there. And so it's there's some chatty noise in there, and there's also some noise from the motor, so might just have to turn your volume down. So let's see here to start it. I want to go slow. wants to hang up on here. It's not going very hard. Once I'm good here, I can use this piece also while it's going. I can go back and adjust where this sits. So if I need to make a difference, adjust it. Now let's speed it up. Now it's moving a lot faster. So like I said, I might have to turn this other plastic gear I made to line the pin up. And I can get maybe, sometimes a good inch before I got to make adjustments here. So then it's starting to get to a point where I need to stop it for a second. So then I just slow it down, but I need to put my phone down from recording real quick. Alright, so while it's on slow and I packed everything back in, you can see the pins off, so I can adjust it a little bit. So this gear I made is notched in this size in one time, so it moves over about almost the thickness of the wire. But sometimes I have to push that in, and you see where the gaps when it comes around right there. So that's when I have to slow it down. Again, I have to use both hands, so be right back here. Alright, so I went ahead and shut it off. It's not really focusing very good. So I'm going to try to zoom in. You see how that is? After I let it go a half inch or an inch or so, and then I use both my hands and twist it around real good to make sure it's nice and smooth all the way across. And then once I pack it back in, then I have to turn my all thread there to push that back. See that? Move there. So my little gear isn't perfectly where it needs to be. I need less teeth on there. So I'm moving too far every revolution. But if I get too tight there, if I get too tight while it's trying to wind around, then it gets bound up and kind of wants to overlap. So I have to go back and fix that. So for now, it's working this way. And once I get it to where I don't really necessarily have to touch this thing, I need a 3D printer so I can get a gear just right. But where I don't have to touch it, where this is cleaned out, I'm going to make use of that ball point and try to see if I can pump polyurethane through it as it's winding. Then it can have its first coat on at the same time. It's going to be a challenge, I think, because I really don't want to have to touch it and make a mess and then have to brush it as it's going. But I don't know, maybe I should, if I can get it a little faster, I can polyurethane it as I'm doing it, maybe. But I need some fine tuning on it. I can get it going faster than that. So that's where I got to pull in this piece. if I get going too fast. I have to put my phone down and correct it. Now, see how far it's off. Alright, so after speeding it up, it threw it off a little bit more. After I went back and tightened that section up to smooth it out across there. See how much it's off. Now if I turn it back, I have to realign it. So it's not completely automatic yet until I get that fine-tuned. But if I gotta stand here and pull that over, it's much easier than trying to stick my hands on it. Because when I put your hands on it and trying to wind it, there's a lot more resistance. And it's almost, you need a bigger motor, which makes it, well, the faster you gotta go, that makes it more susceptible to error. And I've never heard anybody complain about an overlap. If I ever have an overlap, then send it back to me and I'll send another one. But always keep everything nice and tight in there. But now I can get this going, keep this running, while I wind up a smaller one over here. So I got it started, and now I'm about to shut this video off and concentrate on this, get it finished up, and hopefully I can wind both these coils at the same time. Alright, thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video.